I promised I wouldn't do this, but we're going to Minnesota. Yeah, you betcha, Nick. We're going. It's the 3M Open. Yes, that's right. We're coming from the Open Championship, and of course, it makes sense to go play in Minnesota the week after it. So, welcome to Tea Time, everyone. I'm Andy from WagerTalk.com, being joined as always by my fellow golf betting expert Nick Borrman, who correctly had Xander Schauffele to win the Open Championship there. We're going to talk about the 3M Open. We're going to go over total strokes gained, DraftKings darlings, players that could trip you up. We're going to give out a top 20 position on a player I truly didn't even know was playing this week. Nick got me on that one. I know who you're talking about. I had to look him up. We'll go over an outright winner. I got to ask you though, what led you to Xander outright? I mean, obviously he's been playing really good, but the Open Championship, I had a bet on him top 20. I didn't think he was going to be in the mix to win. What led you to that play?
Honestly, it's the major monkey's off his back. He has pretty good history at the links courses. You look at he won the Scottish Open 2 years, I guess it was 2 years ago now, and he's had good results at the Open Championship as well. It's just he wasn't. He's more of a complete player now than he ever was, and I just kind of looked at it like, all right, if he's had pretty good success on links, clearly it's a different game, links golf, and you could see that from players that were comfortable doing it and players that were not. He had shown success. He's playing the best golf of his career. So it was just a little bit of combination of both, where I thought the confidence was there, the form was there, and the creativity in this type of environment was there. And there's no weak part of the game. That was really what it came down to. You look at everybody else, there's always one line item that's like, he doesn't have one. Even his putting is phenomenal. So and they were talking about it during the final round. He's top 10 in like every major category. So it was just the number wasn't great. It was 12-1, and rightfully so. He shouldn't have been, any longer than that. So wasn't a huge win by any means, but that is back-to-back Open wins. I did cash Harmon at 125-1 last year, and then Xander at 12-1 this year. So I'll take it.
I remember that. Yeah, it was a really good Open Championship. I hit my 5% play, so you got the outright winner. I hit my 5% play. That's a success. My favorite part of the Open Championship was, I was watching the Ludwig Aberg, Bryson DeChambeau, Tom Kim feature group on Friday. What do you think the odds were to take all three of those guys to miss the cut? Like all three of them in the featured group, all of them missed the cut. That would have been a 200-1.
They took them off the feature group the next day. They're like, we can't show these guys.
Yeah. Well, what was so great on the featured group was they're all out. They're all not going to miss the cut, and they're coming up to 18, which you can bomb it on, right? So Bryson pulls out driver, Tom Kim pulls out driver, Ludwig Aberg pulls out iron on the tee, and the announcers openly start making fun of him. They're ripping him. Absolutely ripping him. And then what happens? Tom Kim and Bryson put it in the fairway. Aberg puts it in a bunker, trying to lay up on 18, and the announcer's like, good. He deserved that. We wanted to see a driving show with these two guys. So, nice work. Yeah, nice work on the Open Championship. Boy, Rory and Bryson, they just got in their own heads on the first day. It's amazing. Took them out of the tournament completely. So, all right, let's talk about the 3M Open here. It's a pretty bad field. We're obviously coming off a major, and we've got the Olympics coming up. So it's kind of expect the TPC Twin Cities. Not much to it. It's 7,400 yards, it's a par 71. Pretty easy by PGA Tour standards. And honestly, the main defense that it normally has is the weather. It doesn't look like the weather is going to be that bad this week. Look pretty calm, especially Thursday and Friday. Looks like the winds on the weekend maybe up to 15, maybe 20 miles an hour, but rain doesn't look like it's going to be in the forecast. So I expect a minus 20 type of score here to win. Fairways are pretty wide. They're so wide that there are some areas where even if your drive isn't perfect, it's still going to land in the fairway. There is water on the course, but when you look at some of the photos, a lot of it's not totally in play. Like if you do hit it in the water on some of the holes, you have absolutely hit a horrific shot. But the bunkers are not too difficult, Nick. Par fives are all about 590 yards. So we're looking 595-ish, but it's thin air up there. It's great conditions. The fairways are so wide, these guys are going to swing for the fences. So I think most of these guys will attempt to get there into the greens. They're kind of big and flat compared to most of the courses that these guys play. There are trees, but they're so far back off the fairways. I just don't think they're going to come into play. I think this is a birdie fest with the lack of wind this week. I know we talked about the weather last week. We said it was going to be calm, and it wasn't calm. In our defense, everyone thought it was going to be calm. Media players all talked about how the weather was worse than expected. So I think it's a watered down field, Nick, but I think you're going to have to go really, really low on this course to win. I think it's going to be a pretty low cut line as well. What's your take on TPC Twin Cities?
Yeah, it's similar. I mean, Hodges ran away with it last year, 24 under. He won by 7, which that second place score falls in line with each of the first 4 editions. The winner was between 15 and 21 under. So you're right. It's probably going to get similar to that number again this year. This is where the weather's fun, right? Because you know what app do you use or what website do you go to look at? I'm seeing 10 to 20 miles an hour wind Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but hardly anything Thursday. So I'm going to continue to watch that. If that's like a 10 and 20, I know it's not a crazy amount, but that's kind of what the forecast all was at Open Championship as well, was 10 and 20. And then, of course, there were sustained winds and gusts a little higher than that. But that's enough to make these players scramble and struggle a little bit. And if that's the case, maybe it's a late Thursday while there's no wind, early Friday before the wind kick up, kind of a draw advantage. So I do think there's a potential to have an advantage. I don't know that it's going to play out that way. I'm going to wait a little bit to go get closer to Wednesday and Thursday before I make my decision on, do I load up on one side or the other? But as of right now, it does look like it could be a factor a little bit. You're right. There's no rain. There's a tiny chance of late Sunday. They'll probably be done by the time that even comes to fruition. And temperatures are kind of low 80s start up to about 90 degrees by the time it's over. So nothing crazy there, but the wind I am going to pay attention to, watch a little closer. The only thing I can really mention what I'm doing for this week, looking at the past winners here, is obviously strokes gained approach is one of those metrics you can look at every single week, and it's always going to help you decide who's going to play well. You have to hit your irons well if you're going to win a PGA Tour event. 4 of the 5 previous winners of this event, this is a 6-year hosting, so 4 of the 5 winners ranked in the top 4 in strokes gained approach that week. So clearly that is a second shot golf course. You got to hit your irons crisp. You got to get in there and be able to make a lot of birdies. And that's, usually by putting it pretty close. And so I'm looking at guys that are ranking high in strokes gained approach, especially in the shorter term, the 3 to 6 month window, where I think that, they're dialed in. And then guys that can make a lot of birdies, right? There are guys that have a high birdie average per round and guys that have the ability to go low, because as you said, Andy, it's probably going to be overall a low scoring event. So I'm looking for strokes gained approach. I'm looking for guys that can putt well. I'm not too concerned with the driver. Distance always helps, but I don't think it's a huge advantage here. And hitting the fairway is always nice too, but the rough, it can be long in some areas, but overall not too crazy. Nothing these guys can't handle. They're used to this every single week, so I'm not really looking at too much in that category, but really just approach and putting for me. But otherwise, you nailed it. Not a lot to the course. 7,400 yards. Stock 71, meaning only 3 par 5s. Water in play at 15 of 18 holes, but clearly with these scores, these guys don't seem to be too concerned with the water over 72 holes. So that's my take on it, but I'm really diving into the approach and the putting this week for my plays.
Agree. I've got a fun game that I have not told Nick about. I'm going to ask him about some popular Minnesota food dishes at the end of the show. My family is from up there, Nick, so I have tried every single one of these that I'm going to have out. Let's have some fun in the comments section. If you are from Minnesota or have some family from up there, leave some Minnesota takes. What are some of the phrases they use, some of the food? But we'll ask Nick and see if he's had any of these. Let's take a look at the total strokes gained here. Obviously, a completely different list this week from last week. I'll go out on a limb and say that this is where we're taking a look at the last 12 months, the last 6 months, and the last 3 months. Correct me if I'm wrong. One of these guys is not going to be playing in the Ryder Cup. He's actually going to be captaining the Ryder Cup. So that's where this field is. It's actually we got a captain on here, not even a player. But let's take a look at it. These are some names that I think are going to be playable. I got my eye on JT Poston there. I'd like to use him to make the cut in some parlays. What do you make from this list this week?
Yeah, can Keegan as captain pick himself as a player, as a captain's pick?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I know.
He can do that.
Will he do that? That's what's going to be very, very interesting. But Andy, yes, you are 100% right. This is a completely different list than we saw last week. It's funny because the top 10 last week, the lowest on that top 10 list was higher than Sam Burns, 1.28. You can see over the last 12 months, strokes gained per round. I forget who was number 10, but they were higher than that. They were like at 1.6. So much different list here this week, but not too many surprises on the list. I mean, it is similar to what you're going to see in the odds board. Of course, Finau is the major favorite this week at 11-1 to win, which I think is, I know he's, the name of this field, but I think it's still pretty crazy in a field like this where anything can happen and low scores, anybody can catch fire to have somebody at 11-1 that, Tony Finau, I just don't see it. So clearly I won't be betting him, but no real surprises here. You mentioned Poston. I'm going to be talking about Bhatia. I like him this week. He's got that ability to go very low. We got EVR, who's been playing pretty steady. Obviously, we mentioned the Captain Keegan. Hoagie's one of the best iron players in the world, by the way. If you don't know Tom Hoagie, his strokes gained approach numbers are literally second to only Scotty. And his problem is everything else. So he's not a 5-tool player, but he can definitely hit his irons fantastic. It'll be interesting to see if that will manifest. If that's all you really need this week, well, he should be, kind of in the mix come Sunday. I threw in for the notables at the bottom a couple of the Canadians have been playing very well. Mackenzie Hughes, Taylor Pendrith, both doing very well. And then Luke Clanton, who's getting a lot of attention, obviously. He's still an amateur, and he doesn't have – he's got a very short window here. He's only played a handful of events so far. So his last 3 months is really the only numbers we have to look at. You can't really go back further than that. But 28-1, I mean, he is in the top 6 or 7 as far as odds favorites, which, again, is crazy as an amateur. And wasn't he – the favorite or the second favorite not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago? Maybe it was John Deere, maybe it was whatever was it before that. I can't remember, but I remember he was even higher on the odds board that particular week. But this is the top 10. The trends, a guy like Tony Finau, even though he's second on the list, he is number 1 in the last 3 months, and you can see that on the screen. Billy Horschel clearly playing very well, coming off that runner-up last week. I think it's a tall ask to get him to come back now to the States, make that travel, coming back this way with the time difference and coming off the, it takes a lot of energy for these guys to play 4 rounds, especially in a major championship contention. So he's one of those guys, he's high on the odds board because people saw him last week, but I would not be surprised to see a flat performance for Billy Ho this week. But that's your list, Andy. And, I'm not going to put all my eggs in this basket. Last week, I definitely was circling that basket. This week, I'll probably sprinkle a little bit, then I'm definitely going to go deeper into the field as well.
Love it. Love it. Guys, go ahead and hit the like button. It really helps us out. Let's wager talk. No, we're doing a good job for you. Helps the algorithm out. And again, leave us a comment. Who you like this week? What's your favorite Minnesota take? What's your favorite Minnesota food? I'm loving this. I can't. I got one piece of food. There's 2 of them that are just horrific. Absolutely horrific that I can't wait to ask you about here, Nick. So you're coming off a win with Xander Schauffele. Listen, every golf tournament, there's ways to make money. And sometimes these no-name tournaments, sometimes you just get some really, really good numbers on some guys that you don't normally expect. What do you have up at wagertalk.com for this week? Muted.
Last week, Andy, this week is going to be definitely a different pack than we saw last week. I had a lot of round matchups last week. This week will probably be a lot lighter in that situation. But I do have a couple pre-tournament plays loaded right now. You can go to my page at wagertalk.com and grab that as we speak. And then MLS has taken its month break now. So we just saw the Euro and the Copa America tournaments finish. The next tournament on the horizon begins this Friday, the Leagues Cup. It's all MLS teams and all Liga MX teams. That's Mexico's league. Playing one another. Last year was the very first time that tournament happened. Of course, that was Messi joined Miami. They won it, of course, in Messi style. So there'll be a lot of excitement for this tournament this time around as well. It'll be interesting to see if he plays though with that ankle that he suffered in that final. But anyway, that's what I have going right now. The Leagues Cup package, you can get the entire month of that tournament for $99, and it includes all soccer during that span. But MLS is on break during that span. However, we're not far out from the European season's Premier League kicks off August 15th. So this pack will include the first 2 weeks of that season as well. So definitely worth the price of admission there. So everything's on my page at Wager Talk, available right now.
Love it. Let's take a look at some players that can trip you up. There's a lot of them. This is a great week for my segments. I do DraftKings Darlings, which this entire tournament is DraftKings Darlings, and then players that can trip you up. Every single one of these players can trip you up. But let's take a look at some higher priced guys this week that I'm a little bit nervous about. We did good last week. John Rahm was a little bit of a swing and a miss. He did good.
Yeah,
But I had Cameron Smith and Bryson DeChambeau. Those are two pretty high
very good.
priced guys that missed the cut, so we did good. All right, let's start with Sahith Theegala. He's played here 3 times, Nick, and he's yet to make the cut. That seems like a problem for the second highest betting favorite in the field this week. And this tournament is a birdie fest. And this is, I guess you and I kind of call it the Will Zalatoris effect. You know, if you are not a lights out putter, it's hard to go low on these really easy courses. This guy's only plus 0.21 strokes gained putting the last 3 months. That's outside the top 30 in this field. So if you don't have a red hot putter, like you're not going to be able to take advantage of this easy course. So he's had some really good finishes this season, but he also has 2 missed cuts and 4 other finishes outside the top 40. I worry about his consistency, and he has a low floor. That is a terrifying thing when you have the second highest betting favorite who has missed the cut, finishes outside the top 40, and is not lights out putting. So as much as I like Theegala, 3 missed cuts and 3 attempts here at this tournament, I will not be putting him in any bets or any lineups. You mentioned Lee Hodges, and I just think that when you go down the list of guys that you're trying to play in like DFS and like seasonal fantasy leagues, you're gonna automatically look at the guy who won it last year, and then you go, "Gosh, man, he won it by 7 strokes." But I'm not playing Lee Hodges
No.
this week, so his approach numbers are pretty good, but his driving strokes are minus 0.13 in the last 6 months, and his putting is 0.0. Again, that's not going to get it done. Nick, he's played 25 tournaments since he won this last year, and he has 0 top 10 finishes. This win he had last year was such an outlier that I just cannot go back to Lee Hodges. So I think people, there's a lot of names that people are not going to recognize here, and they're going to go, "Well, Lee Hodges won. He must love this place." Maybe, but I'm not willing to risk it with my money. So Lee Hodges is going to be a guy that I think can trip people up. And then finally, Keith Mitchell. He's finished 5th here the last 2 times he's played here, but he's been terrible recently. Missed the cut in 3 out of his last 4 tournaments. His putting the last 3 months is minus 0.67. That's bottom 20 in this field. And this guy's priced as a top 6. Yeah, he's priced as a top 6 player. No way. I don't see it. So be careful about Keith Mitchell. I know he's played good here last year and in 2021, but his putter has gone ice cold. I will not be betting on Keith Mitchell. So Sahith Theegala, Lee Hodges, and Keith Mitchell are 3 players that I think can trip you up. Let's take a look at a outright winner here, Nick. Great week to kind of maybe pick some guys that are outside the usual favorites here up at the top. Who do you got for an outright favorite this week?
Yeah, just to echo your thoughts on Lee Hodges real quick, it's, besides just being a guy that hasn't played well, on merit alone, like you're saying, he hasn't played well. He was 90 to 1 to win last year. He's anywhere from 60 to 81 this year, lower than he was last year. His play alone dictates he should be higher than last year. So the number is way down simply because of last year's performance. So it's just not fair. But this year we're looking at, let's see, Akshay Bhatia. No surprise here with this name is Bhatia. He was on a heater prior to the miscut last week at the Open, but we have to remember this is only his 2nd season on tour. And last year he didn't play in the Open or any majors for that matter, but he did earn his first win at the Barracuda. Ironically, what's the Barracuda, Andy? The alternate field event for last week's Open. So he didn't play in the Open last year, but the other event he played and he won. So yeah, I don't really my point is I don't put a lot of eggs in the basket if he didn't play with. He doesn't know the style of links play, right? He hasn't really been in the majors long enough to really get that grind. But prior to missing that cut, he was trending. Tied for 22nd at the Memorial, tied for 16th at the U.S. Open, 5th at the Travelers, 2nd at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Everything was like, all right, when is he going to win? It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. He just wasn't ready for links golf. This is his first time playing this event, but he does excel in low-scoring tournaments. Forget just this field. Bhatia actually ranks 10th on tour in total strokes gained this season. And he's 17th in strokes gained approach and 27th in putting. And again, those are the two metrics I'm looking at. So he can throw some shots in there. He can go low. He has a great birdie average. He has a couple of the lowest scores on tour this year, just to prove that he can shoot 62 at any given time. And obviously those are all recipes for going low. He's very accurate off the tee. As a result, he ranks 14th in adjusted scoring. So again, forget just the field and where he ranks in the field. He's actually one of the top 10, 15 players on tour this year in a lot of metrics. And with this field, that's going to be near the top clearly in this field. So I like Bhatia this week. He's 22-1 to win. There's going to be he'll definitely be in my client package. I just don't know exactly how I'm going to play him. Maybe more than one different way, matchups, outrights, leaderboards, whatever. But I do like Bhatia. I think he's worth the price at 22-1. I think he's got a better chance than Tony Finau at 11-1. To be honest, I like a lot of the way he plays, and he's double the value. So Bhatia is my guy this week.
Love it, Nick. Good pick there. I'm going to do some DraftKings darlings, which is an interesting list, but I think we got some good ones. I've got a 5% play that is up at wagertalk.com. It's another cross-sport parlay. We have hit 9 out of our last 11 plays of the week, which I am so proud of. And the bankrolls have been good. July has been a great month, plus 37 units for us. We're up to plus 84 units on the season in all sports. And what I've been doing is just kind of building my week around this one play of the week and, kind of basing all the plays around that. It's been really, really good. So that 5% play is up, and take advantage of that. We're number one lifetime in cross-sport parlays, number one this year, coming off a really nice winning week at the Open Championship. Take advantage of that. WT.buzz/AL. Andy Lang, wagertalk.com. All right, DraftKings darlings. Let's start with Hayden Buckley, 7,000. The criteria is pretty low to make the list. Like last week, Adam Scott was a DraftKings darling. It's like former major winner. Now we're at Hayden Buckley. He's made the cut 4 weeks in a row. He finished 7th last week at the Barracuda, so he's in a little bit of a groove. Only played here once in 2022, and he finished 26th. So at that price, that like his chances to make the cut and get us some weekend points. Up next, we've played this guy several times. He's come through. Ben Silverman, 7,200. He's on a made cut streak of 7 tournaments in a row. That is good enough for me to take him. His worst finish in that run is 40th, so we're getting a little bit of an upside in a pretty weak field. Total strokes gained the last 30 days is plus 0.81, so he's in good form. And like I said, we've gone back to him several times. He's delivered by giving us some weekend points. That's what we're looking for. And then Rico Hoey. I don't know if that's how his last name's pronounced, but that's how I'm pronouncing it. 7,500. Nick, he was awful to start the season. I mean awful. But he is all of a sudden on fire in his last 4 starts. 8th at the Barracuda, 6th at the Rocket Mortgage, 26th at the John Deere, and he won the ISCO championship. Listen, he's just playing his best golf of the season. I just need him one more week. Just one more week, Rico. Come through and give us a top 15 finish here at a pretty easy course, and I think we can cash on this one. So, those are your DraftKings darlings: Hayden Buckley, Ben Silverman, and Mr. Rico. Though full lineup is at wagertalk.com. We got a free article, digital download. Did good. We got 5 out of 6 golfers through to the weekend. So I entered the lineup in a tournament with 40,000 people, and we finished in the top 5,000. So it was a really good DraftKings lineup. So just go to my profile page. There's a free article and download. You can get that. It's got all the write-ups for the players who can trip you up, DraftKings darlings, and much more. WT.buzz/AL. All right, like I said, I had to look this guy up. I know him. I pride myself on knowing all these guys. I did not know what form he was in. Let's talk about a top 20 player, Mr. Ben Griffin. What do you like about him this week, Nick?
So, it's kind of a perfect lead-in from your DraftKings darlings, because I think this tournament, and I think we've talked about this before in some of the weaker field events, you're looking for guys with potential. Last week you look at the guys that you're looking to win. It's guys like Xander Schauffele, who's made the cut in 52 straight events, or Colin Morikawa, top 10, 9 straight starts and stuff like that. You're not going to find that this week, right? But you are going to find guys that have had some high finishes, and you're going to look at what I always try to do is I look at similar events, not necessarily the course, but like the fields, right? Because a lot of it comes down to who you're playing against. And I've looked at a lot of the weaker field events when you don't have big name players in there. You look at the signature events, look at the majors, you're not going to see a lot of great results from a lot of the players on this list. So you're going to see inconsistency. But potential is there. Ben Griffin is that guy for me this week. He's a solid on approach. He's gained strokes on approach in 7 straight starts. In fact, going back to the players, he's only lost strokes twice on approach in 16 events. So again, that's a metric I'm high on. Additionally, he's got several good finishes recently in these weaker field events. So he had a tie for 5th at the John Deere Classic, had a solo 2nd, believe it or not, at the RBC Canadian Open behind Robert McIntyre, had a tie for 16th Myrtle Beach Classic. That was an alternate field event. Tied for 14th at the Corrales Punta Cana, another alternate field, and then tied for 17th at the Valspar. All top 20s, clearly, all weaker fields, just like this week. He can roll the flat stick as well. He ranks 38th strokes gained putting this season, which is very respectable. He's had a couple of recent poor putting performances, which included 2 missed cuts, though they were at very tough tournaments. The Open last week, not too worried about it. And the Memorial Tournament, which we know and watching that in the winning score was in the single digits. Very, very tough course, tough field. But that Memorial, when he lost strokes putting, that snapped a run of 10 straight events in which he had gained strokes on the green. So the guy clearly can get hot with the flat stick and roll it pretty well. And while he was in Scotland the last 2 weeks, he played both the Genesis and the Open. I'm going to give him a little bit of an advantage because he missed the cut at the Open. That only means he gets on a plane a little quicker, a little earlier, gets back to the States, has a little bit more time for that jet lag to kind of get past him. So I like him to play well. He did play here, so he's got one little example as far as this course goes. He didn't finish tied for 20th, so that would be good enough to cash this wager. So we're hoping for another performance. Plus 260 is the highest number. Lowest numbers I'm seeing is about plus 240, so it's very good value no matter either one of those. But I like Ben Griffin to give us a chance, kind of make the cut, get around the weekend, and who knows what will happen there, and hopefully we can get him in that top 20. But I think he's a guy nobody's probably going to be paying attention to, but I think he's kind of I think he's a very close to your DraftKings darlings list this week, Andy, and it's kind of for all the same reasons. So Ben Griffin's my guy for a top 20.
Absolutely. Love it. Love these guys at these easy courses and you're getting guys at plus money. It's, one of the best ways to play these courses because anytime you get guys that you think you got an edge on, some of these bigger name guys can easily slip up and then all of a sudden you're cashing at Ben Griffin at that plus money. So, all right, guys, let's get to some famous Minnesota dishes. So Nick, do you know the Minnesota area? Do you know that northern area? Have you spent any time up there?
I grew up in Iowa. All right. My father's side of the family lives in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Say ya to the UVA. So I know the lingo. I don't know that I know necessarily a lot of the food because I haven't been to Minnesota myself. We were in Wisconsin a lot, whatever, but I was never really into Minnesota. So hit me with it.
All right. We've all had bunt cake. Have you had bunt cake?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's that it's kind of like it's in a circle. It's spongy.
Yep.
What I love about it is like the frosting on top. It really isn't spread over. It's just kind of poured on it. and the sponge is always like overcooked a little bit. So yeah, bunt cake we've all had. Have you had what they call hot dish?
Doesn't sound familiar.
All right. So hot dish is this. It's in this rectangle thing, and it's literally just a layer of meat and then some frozen veggies and like some kind of pastry on it's soupy. It's kind of gross. It takes like 30 seconds to prepare because you just put meat, frozen veggies, and then throw it in the oven.
It sounds like that dessert that Rachel was trying to make in Friends that Joey ended up having to eat. I don't know if you know what I'm referencing.
Yes.
But it was like custard and meat.
So so they just call it hot dish. It's a hot dish.
Okay.
Have you ever had sandwich loaf?
No. Meatloaf? No.
No, this is sandwich loaf. Nothing like meatloaf. So they take a piece of bread and then like ham salad, then another piece of bread, then egg salad, then another piece of bread, and tuna salad, another piece of bread, cover it in mayonnaise, slice it, and you have this sandwich loaf. Oh no, it's a knife and fork type dish. So
okay.
So sandwich loaf. And finally, Jello salad. Have you ever had Jello salad?
No. What is no?
So,
I have
so
not.
Jello salad is it's doing something to Jello that you just shouldn't. It's you basically make this mold of Jello and you just put shit in it, like marshmallows,
I put liquor in
carrots.
my Jello.
No, no, no. That's way more delicious than this. Carrots is a popular one. You'll see shredded
What?
carrots in Jello. Yeah, this is a real thing. Putting things in Jello because you're doing something to Jello that was never intended.
I guess that's
So
how you get your
yes,
vegetable. You put a vegetable in there, then you feel good because you had your vegetable for the
even as a kid, I was like, "Why are we putting carrots in Jello? This makes why do we have lime Jello with
day. It's
shredded
good for your
carrots
eyes,
in
Andy.
it?" It's yeah, yeah. As a kid, I go back to some dark
Thanks, Grandma.
times with some of the things my northern family made me eat. So yeah, bundt cake, hot dish, sandwich, loaf, and Jello salad. Those are the four things that I have memories of. So leave some comments if I've missed anything or if you've had any of these. Yeah, the dried bundt cake with the frosting drizzled over the top. That's a staple at at most gatherings. So all right, guys, that's going to do it for the 3M Open. Make sure you go grab Nick's page coming off a nice outright winner one on Xander Schauffele at the Open Championship. I've got a 5% play that is up coming off another 5% win. That's 9-2 out of the last 11 weeks. So grab those. All of our plays can be found at wagertalk.com. And we will be back to talk about the Olympics. It's
Yeah.
absolutely a very bettable and fun event. Nick and I were just talking about that before. I think it's pretty bettable because I'm not sure the books know what to do with it. So I think we get some pretty soft lines on that. So I'll be excited to talk about Olympic golf with Nick next week. So good luck on all your plays. Let's cash, and we will see everyone next week on Tea Time.